Hello, YouTube. Hello, Eagles Nation, and welcome to another season of NFL football and Eagles football, and to another season of Season of the Fan. The Philadelphia Eagles going through a season, of course, as a fan. This is now season 7. Oh, God, I can't believe it's already been 7 seasons of Season of the Fan. You've seen the highs and lows so far, haven't we? The ultimate high, winning a Super Bowl, and then the lows of losing seasons early on in the series, and then of course the last few years losing in the playoffs and having to deal with seasons that end in rough fashion. I mean, look, last season it was a nice ride. Certainly it was unexpected. Certainly after losing in Miami, that ugly game after Thanksgiving, but then they rallied and they won 4 in a row, and all division opponents won the NFC East, coming from behind after Dallas, and then hey, I know what's the saying? And if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a happy holidays or something like that. But if Carson doesn't go down, who knows if that game could have been any different in the playoffs against Seattle last season. I mean, look, he was on a real roll, the team was on a real roll, and it's a shame. It's a shame that hit happened by Clowney, but that's the game, and it's a rough game. And unfortunately, that's where the season ended. But what a ride it was! It was still fun, and you know what? The one thing I will say is I think the one thing that we should all be thankful for in Eagles Nation is we have that coach and quarterback. Because you see those teams that have that combo, right? I call it with the hats and jerseys, I always call it the combo wombo. When you have the combo wombo for quarterback and coach, team is more seasons than not going to have success, or are going to have a chance at having success, right? Because how many years have we seen it with other franchises with that coach and quarterback in play, and they just go on and they have a lot of success. So I do feel good in that respect. Obviously, going into this season, there's a lot of question marks. Stop me if you heard this before, there's injuries for the Eagles. I mean, can we just have a season? I know injuries are going to happen in football. It's a rough sport. It happens. But for the Eagles, it's like injury overload, every year. And I know they won a Super Bowl 52 with injuries. The backup quarterback went on to be Super Bowl MVP, the great story, the underdog, everything. And of course, the last couple of years with injuries, they make the playoffs. But it's like, how many times can you go to the well, right? And obviously, going into this season, you already have, one of the newest additions. Hargraves goes down. Who knows how long he's out for? And now going into this game tomorrow against Washington, Miles Sanders isn't going to play, and Derek Barnett's not going to play. At least those two we know. And Lane Johnson's questionable. And this offensive line going into this season is questionable, in my opinion. We know what you're going to have at center, and you know what you have at the tackle position. I mean, yes, Peters was brought back and originally was going to play guard because, unfortunately, Barrett Brooks is out for the season. All-pro right guard that he is, he's gone. And he was going to play that spot, but then, of course, Dillard gets out. He's done for the season. So now Peters goes back to his more familiar role at left tackle, the bodyguard, right? The quote-unquote bodyguard for Carson Wentz is back at left tackle. And I'm happy for that. I know he goes down. He's an older player. We all know, he kind of goes out for a play or two, and then he comes back, with some sort of injury or whatever. It happens with him. But I still feel better with him there than whoever else would have been there after Dillard goes down. Even Dillard, because you talk about unproven, a guy who haven't really proved that he can play that position in the NFL. Excuse me. He goes out, so now you kind of get more of that familiarity, right, back at left tackle. And I know they won a Super Bowl. And give the guy credit. I know that his time here was less than spectacular, but Big V, I mean, he's now in Detroit, and they're going to miss him. They're going to miss him because he was one of those guys that can play multiple positions. He could be a guard, he could be a tackle. And in the Super Bowl run, he was the left tackle after Peters was down. And he did yeoman's work at left tackle, to the point where it was an offensive explosion in Super Bowl 52, but how many times did we see Nick Foles on his back, right? Well, he was protected pretty good in that game, and for better or worse, with Big V when he was here, he had a hell of a game. He had a hell of a playoffs that year, and helped his team win that Lombardi Trophy that we all coveted so much for many years prior to that. So yeah, the issue with the offensive line more so this year than any other season in recent years is depth. They don't have the depth. We don't know what they have behind the starters. And in some cases, we don't even know what they have in some of the starters at the guard position. Excuse me. So that going into this season is a bit of a question mark for me. But I will say this. The more I think about it, you're going into a season where you're going to have stadiums that are either going to be empty, like the Link, unfortunately, or stadiums that are going to be partially full, not all the way full. And some of those stadiums, you talk about home field advantages, right? False starts, all sorts of things, the noise, the snap counts. Stuff happens when there's a lot of noise in a stadium, particularly with players who might be young at positions. You're not going to have that this season. And despite what Kansas City did against the Texans, you're not going to have that this season unless they start occupying the whole stadiums full of fans. And I think that could be a plus, for the Eagles because they do have a lot of young youth at different positions. Now they're going to pump in noise and they're going to do, but it's just not the same. Obviously when you talk about some of those stadiums, some of those fan bases, and unfortunately, this is one of those fan bases that they're not going to hear from us this year, in the stadium unless they decide to let fans in at some point later on. Some of those stadiums, though, that are just notorious for it, that are known for it, some of those fan bases that are known for it, you're not going to have it to those levels that would be years prior. So going into a season like this, you just don't know what to expect, what road games are going to be like, what home games are going to be like, for God's sakes. I mean, the Eagles have enjoyed a very good home field advantage over the past, how many seasons now, really in the Doug Peterson regime. So that's a bit concerning for me going into this season as well. I just don't know what to expect. I do like the fact that they address some needs this offseason as far as bringing in, and stop me if you've heard this before, Eagle fans being optimistic about a rookie receiver. We've had that quite a few times over the years, and it never seems to pan out. But they did go out and they made a focus of getting speed at the wide receiver position. Look, after D-Jax left last season, after he got hurt, what was it, going into week 2 against the Falcons, he got hurt, what was it, in warm-ups or whatever it was, and he was out for basically the rest of the season. He had a cameo against the Bears, but that was it. They didn't have another receiver that had that type of ability, that had that burner speed type of ability, and you saw it did hurt the offense. And I know at the end of the season they were playing pretty good with the practice squad guys, and look, they made a difference when they came in, and credit to them. But Carson Wentz was having a hell of a run there too. But you didn't have that burner. You just didn't have that element of the offense that you see other teams like Kansas City, able to have, and they went on to win a Super Bowl. And I'm not going to say, I'm not going to say that just because you have a lot of speed in offense, you're just guaranteed to win, because there's been plenty of teams, who have had skilled speed at the skill positions and still aren't able to win. It takes a total team effort, takes a total team. And the Chiefs last season, look, if that defense didn't come around, the second half of the season and into the playoffs, I mean, offense alone isn't going to win. You need both sides of the ball. That being said, the Eagles did go out this offseason. They brought in Darius Big Play Slay from the Lions. They did bring in Hargraves from the Steelers, but of course he's out, and who knows when he's going to play. They also do get Malik Jackson back, and some people may have forgotten about him. He was brought in a season ago, big offseason acquisition from Jacksonville. And yeah, another Eagle gets hurt before the season begins, and he never played. Well, he's playing this season, and the defensive line, I do worry a bit about the pass rush, just a bit, and no Derek Barnett tomorrow, but the depth there, I don't know what it's going to be, and we'll see. But if they can get that pass rush, this could be a very ferocious defensive line, as they've been in recent years. And one of the reasons why the Eagles have had success in recent years is because they have been able to get that pressure on the opposing quarterback, make it uncomfortable for the opposing quarterback. And let's not forget, I know Carson Wentz had a great, end of the season last year, that 4-game span, but the defense played really well in those 4 games too. And for the most part, then there may have been a time or two where they were not being able to get off the field and whatnot. I do remember the Redskins. Well, when they were the Redskins, now of course they're the Washington football team until they get an actual name next season. But there was some trouble in that game stopping the Washington offense. But other than that, they played pretty good at the end of that season. And we go into this season, and again, every season, there are question marks, and there's points of positivity. And going into this season, one of my question marks is going to be the pass rush, the edge rushing ability. Brandon Graham, I think you can just pen him in for 7 to 8 sacks a year, and he's going to get pressure, and he's good against the run. Derek Barnett has been, he's been a bit underwhelming for the most part. He did have a very nice collegiate career at Tennessee, broke Reggie White's sack record there, came into the NFL. Look, he had the greatest fumble recovery in the history of the franchise in Super Bowl 52 with the strip sack of BG against Tom Brady, against TB, right? The Michigan connection. But realistically, other than that moment, he's flashed here and there, but he's not. Some Eagle fans have called him Mike Mahula 2.0. I think that's a good analogy because he gets close to the quarterback, but he doesn't bring him down. But still, without him in the lineup tomorrow, it's going to present some issues because again, the depth there. Maybe Sweat, maybe that opens up a chance for him, but for the most part, he's been unproven. I think that the common theme for this season is there's a lot of unprovens. There's some unprovens on the offensive line, receiver position, though it could be explosive, and I hope it is. But still, until we see it, it's unproven. Pass rush, some unproven there. The depth behind the normal starters. And we'll see. Hey, teams kind of get together, and these things that going into a season there could be question marks. As the season goes on, those question marks could go away, or they could get even worse. And we've seen this. We've seen this many times. The one thing I am positive for, and the one thing I will say without a shadow of a doubt, is we have the franchise quarterback. In my mind, he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I think he proved himself a season ago, even with all those injuries, winning those 4 in a row after that terrible game in Miami. Winning 4 in a row to win the division title, make the playoffs. And, he gets hurt against on the cheap shot by Clowney. But at the same point, I think he proved his mettle last season. He had a couple game-winning touchdowns, right? The Monday night game against the Giants to Ertz in overtime, and then to set up overtime to Ertz to get the game to overtime, and then against Washington, a game-winning touchdown I know they scored a late defensive touchdown too, but basically Wentz with that game-winning touchdown really proved to be the game-winning touchdown late in the game, late in the fourth quarter. So I think he proved himself certainly last season. And look, in 2017, if he doesn't go down, and I know again with the ifs and buts, if he doesn't go down, he's the league MVP. It's not Tom Brady. They kind of gave it to Tom because he played more games. But Carson was the league MVP before he goes down in LA against the Rams. So I know it's been a little up and down with him, and I know the injuries are always going to be a question mark. Hey, until he goes through a full season from start to finish without getting hurt, hopefully he's not cheap shot this season. We'll see. Still a little salty about that, I am. But he's got to prove it. I believe he will. Now, I do have some questions with the offensive line, but the one thing I'm not going to question is they do have some explosiveness on this offense. Can I really trust Deshaun Jackson to stay healthy for the whole year? No, I'd be lying if I said I could. But even though they're unproven, I do like the ability that these young receivers that they did draft have with their speed. Now, You can be the fastest man in the world. If you can't catch the ball, it doesn't matter. And I know that Rieger's had some drop issues, right, in college. We'll see. I can't say that I saw him in college. So I'm kind of going blind here into what I've heard about what he is, seeing some film, seeing highlights. You can only see so much with highlights because they're just going to show the positives, right? It's never gonna show him dropping the ball. But and I know we've had a bit of an issue with the receivers over the years here with dropping the ball, like Aguilar. now with the Las Vegas Raiders, right? So we're gonna see. But I do like the potential that's there to be an explosive offense, a go down the field type of offense. Miles Sanders proved himself a season ago. I know it's just 1 year, it's a rookie season, who knows? But I have a good feeling about him. He's hurt. He's not going to, stop me if you're an Eagle being hurt. Yep. So he's not going to play tomorrow, apparently. But going forward, I think we're in good hands with Miles. I think he's one of those dual threat backs. He can run. He can catch. He showed a lot last season in his rookie season. But of course, now teams have film on him and are going to try to, work a defense to stop him. Now, I know you can say that, you can try that, but until you actually do it, I mean, how many years did we have, and I'm not putting him up there with B. West or with Shady, but how many years did the Eagles go up against defenses trying to stop those two, and those two still were able to make plays? Easier said than done, right? It's all nice to say, well, we're going to stop this running back, but until you actually do it. Some backs are just special, and that's what it is. And we'll see with Miles. Obviously, he still has to prove himself a little more, but I liked what I saw a season ago. I really did. And running back is my favorite position in football. And sometimes, I see a back, and I say, this guy's going to be special. And I said that about backs in the past here that worked out pretty good, and I feel that way about Miles. I think the Chiefs have a nice, young rookie running back too. Is going to be a pretty special back, going forward. And look, Big Red. Look, I will say this, and I tip the hat to the Chiefs, winning Super Bowl 54 a season ago, and Big Red finally getting his ring, well deserved. The one thing I know about Andy and Eagle fans, we have to admit this. Andy always knew how to draft pretty good at certain positions. Andy knew how to draft. And those skill positions, for the most part, Andy, he drafted pretty decently. He did it here, getting guys like Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin and Shady McCoy and Westbrook, right? Now he's doing it at Kansas City, and it's not a surprise because he does have an eye for those offensive, playmaking type of players. I know early in his years here, it wasn't always the case. Did draft Donovan. But the receivers took a little time. But he drafted Westbrook, and then later on it was Shady McCoy, and we saw how those players, did pretty good. Brent Selleck was a pretty good, pick too. So yeah, he always had an eye, for doing it. So it's not a surprise at all for me to see him doing it with the Chiefs today. But this series is not about the Chiefs. This series is about the team that wears green. I am excited to see what this offense could be. I know that Zach Ertz has a contract situation right after that he wants to get extended. I believe he should be. In my eyes, he should be an Eagle until he retires. I think he's deserved it. I think he's earned it. I think he should be one of those guys that's just a lifer Eagle. Had lots of success here. Really since day one was a reliable tight end. And, I still don't know what we have in Dallas Goedert. I think Dallas had a nice season a year ago, and he started making some more strides, had more opportunities too. But I still want to see more from Dallas before I officially, say, oh, well, we have our tight end. Because, in this offense, it's about two tight end offense. And if you lose, Zach Ertz, who do you have outside of Dallas Goedert? Richard Rodgers or something? I mean, who else? You can always get a guy at free agency or draft, but really, who else is there? You have a known commodity. Sometimes you just want to keep that known commodity here. It's like the Phillies, you got that Real Muto. That's a pretty known commodity. Maybe you want to hold him. But we'll see. And contracts, we'll see what they do. I still believe that they'll take care of Ertz before the end of the season, and this doesn't even make it to the off season. But again, it's just up to Howie. It's up to the powers that be to get it done, and I hope they do. I know people call him like no yak Zach or whatever, and it's true. He basically he catches the ball, but he catches the ball. All these years we've had these receivers that drop the ball, right? Zach catches damn near everything that's in his area, right? He catches the ball, and he's Carson Wentz's BFF, right? So you want to keep those two together, okay? It seems to be working pretty good in Kansas City with Mahomes and Miss Kelsey's brother, over there. And by the way, Brady and Gronk seem to be doing pretty good over those years in New England, now reunited with Tampa Bay. Sometimes you want to keep your franchise quarterback's BFF around, okay? And look, there have been, outside of Brady and Gronk and Mahomes and Kelsey, and now you can throw in, I guess, Garoppolo and Kittle, there has been very few connections better in the quarterback tight end pairing combo wombo than Wentz to Ertz over the years, right? Ertz has the record for catches in a season, right? So there's very few quarterback to tight end combo wombos that have done it like Wentz to Ertz over the past since Wentz has been a rookie, and that's going back some years. So I would definitely do whatever it has to keep him here. I think he's too important to the offense to let go. I know he's getting older, but again, there's certain guys that should be an Eagle. Dawkins never should have been able to go to Denver. There's just certain guys. I'm not. Hey, look, Doc was Doc, right? Weapon X. But to me, Ertz, he's got to be an Eagle. He's got to be an Eagle. Selleck had his whole career with the Eagles. It's like there's just certain guys that should be an Eagle, that are wearing the uniform right now. So, I think Wentz should always be an Eagle. Other guys, Brandon Graham, should always be an Eagle until he retires. There's just certain guys that they should be here. In my eyes, Ertz should be here. His contract should get extended, and he should be able to end his career with the Eagles unless he gets traded or something. But as far as free agency, I don't think it should ever come to that with him. And I think that would be a problem. That would be a mistake. But anyhow, on to this season. What do I think? And of course, Festive, the prediction for the season for this year, and it's hard to predict this season because of the pandemic, because of all the empty stadiums and the situations. Even the traveling is going to be different. It's so difficult to try to narrow down a record for this season because you just never know. And with the Eagles, obviously, there's injury upon injury every year. So obviously, I'm using that, in thought process when I'm coming up with this record. But I'm saying this record, I'm basing it off of my my comfort level with the coach and the quarterback, with that combo wombo together. My belief in the quarterback too, in Carson Wentz, and obviously he has to stay healthy. That's the biggest caveat, obviously, right? Although I did win a lunch last year because he was healthy all year until that playoff game. But that does go into effect. But if he stays healthy, I know there's a lot of ifs, but if he stays healthy and the skill position guys can come back healthy like Miles Sanders, this defense I do think will be a bit better because their secondary is a bit better with the addition of Darius Slay and company. I like the moves they made. Was it a perfect offseason? No. I don't think any offseason can really be considered perfect because you have to prove it during the season. The draft, they had some interesting picks in there. Hurts at the second round, okay, but I think overall I like the offseason. It was sad to see you talk about guys who could have been an Eagle for the rest of his career, like Malcolm, but there were guys who were let go that were a part of the team, part of the history, for winning before, but there's some new faces. But the two faces that are the same is Peterson and Wentz. And for that reason, I think this, and knowing that my belief, I should say, that this offense is going to be a bit more explosive this season, with more talent at the wide receiver skill position. I'm going to say 10-6. I'm going to say it's going to be a 10-6 season. A couple of days ago, I was thinking I was leaning 9-7, but then the more I think about, the more the more I kind of try to put this season in perspective and what it could be. And look, when you go into a season, it's all about what it could be, right? I'm going to say 10-6. I think they're going to be better than some people think they are, because I think the offense will be a little better. I think it'll be a little more explosive. And I think that will help the defense too, because you're not just going to rely on the defense getting stops when the offense can be explosive. And I believe in the coach and the quarterback wombo. I do. I believe in that. I believe in those two together, winning games, because that's all they've done the past few years is win games. Even at times where we thought, okay, how are they going to do it now? And then they rattle off 4 straight wins against division opponents. This team's about winning. This team is about making the playoffs. It's not about rebuild. It's not about flux. It's about winning. It's about, competing for a division title, making the playoffs, having a run in the playoffs. That's what this team's about. When you win a Super Bowl a few years ago, that's what it's about. And even if going into a season, there's a lot of teams in the NFC that are stacked, that are real good. And obviously things can happen. COVID, injuries. I'm not wishing that upon anyone, believe me. But anything can happen. You go into a season, these other teams look like they're the greatest thing on earth, and then things happen. Inconsistencies, injuries. As we all know, things take place in a season. Some teams have new coaching staffs in place. So you just don't know what to expect. And this offseason, you didn't have much of an offseason because of the situation. The Eagles are the only team. I know they have some new coaches on offense, but they still had the head coach here. Think about that. The only team in this division that still has the head coach from a season ago is the Eagles. And that's big. I know people are throwing Dallas in there and, Dallas this and that. They have a new coach. And he didn't have a normal offseason to have time with those players. And there's talent, but Dallas has had talent over how many years? They just haven't been able to put it all together. And I don't quite know if this is going to be the year for that either, just because they haven't had a typical offseason with a new coach. So we'll see. We'll see. I do think the Eagles and Dallas are going to be the two teams battling it out for the division. I think the Giants and the Washington football team are still, it's still funny to say, they're still, a year or two away, a couple of years away from really, developing something. I think Ron Rivera is a really good coach. I think that was as much as I don't like to say it, I think that was a good, pickup for Washington. Maybe Snyder actually did something right there. But I think it's still going to take some years. He still has a young quarterback there, and it's going to take some years for him to really get his teeth, sunk into that franchise. And the Giants, I mean, they've just been team flux. They have a young quarterback, Danny Dimes, which, by the way, Danny Dimes picked up where Eli left off. He's now 0-1 lifetime versus the Eagles. I'm going to miss Eli. I'm going to miss Eli face. Oh, I know Eli won't miss us. Because for whatever Eli did, 2 Super Bowl championships and had success with the one team that Eli always had struggles against was the Eagles. The one team. Eli should have had on his helmet the NY and the Eagle logo because he was owned by both. And it's good to see late last season Danny Dimes picking up where Eli left. He's already 0-1 versus us, and I would imagine a few more wins against the Giants this season. I know. What I've seen, look, he could be a really good quarterback, but what I've seen out of him so far is he's shown some flash, but he turns the ball over too much. Danny Dimes. He does. He's a turnover machine. So I don't know. Do I have to be afraid of him? Well, we'll see. We'll see what this season brings. Washington with a young quarterback, and I think Haskins, I don't think he's terrible. I think he flashed last season. I think with a Bearhead coach, that's going to help him. Let's not forget, he had a pretty good game last season against the Eagles. In that game in Washington, the Eagles came from behind to win. It was like a back-and-forth type of game. I think he could be a good quarterback for them, but, going into another season with another coach, another system, the offseason of different kind of offseason because of the pandemic and all. I don't know really what to expect out of him this season, and we play him right off the bat. But again, I think the team in this division with the most cohesiveness quarterback coach is the Eagles. McCarthy's new with Dallas. Rivera, all these guys are new, so you don't know what exactly to expect out of these other offenses. We know what we have here. It's like the old standby, right? We know what we have. And now you added some more offensive weapons, youth though they might have, but offensive weapons. And like I said, I do think it's going to be a 10-6 type of year for the Eagles. I think they'll win the division. I do think they will win they'll back-to-back repeat champions of the NFC East. It's going to be a battle with Dallas. It will. But I think at the end of the day, the Eagles will overtake Dallas and win the division title again, go to the playoffs, host a playoff game, and hopefully this year our quarterback stays on his doesn't get cheap shot. So hopefully this year we can actually see Carson complete a playoff game and go through a playoff run. And I believe they have the capability of doing it because that's what this team's about. It's about winning. And that's what it's been about. Even when people kick them down and say this team has no chance, they rise back up and come together as a group and win games and make the playoffs. I mean, they took the division away from Dallas last year with practice squad guys. So that it tells me a lot about the team and about the coach and the quarterback. So with that said, like I said, again, a prediction, and prediction is what it is in an offseason. Before a season starts, it is what it is. But I'm saying 10-6, division title, at least one playoff win, and let's see how things unravel this season. I'm looking forward to it. Going into this game tomorrow against the Washington football team, let's not forget the last time the Eagles started a season against the Washington football team in Washington with a win, they went on to win the Super Bowl that season. Now remember, they beat them last season at the start of the season, but it was here. It wasn't in Washington. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, okay? So tomorrow's game against Washington, I know that the Eagle fans are really feeling good and double-digit win, and it won't be a problem. I've watched the Eagles play Washington long enough to know that it's probably going to be another close game because most games against Washington is a close game, a back-and-forth type of battle type of game. Last year, both games really were, I know the Eagles won both, and they haven't lost to Washington in any game that Carson Wentz has played. 5-0 versus Washington in his career. I do... At least I heard that stat the other day. Don't quote me on that one. But I do believe that the Eagles will get this W tomorrow. But I don't think it's going to be an easy walkover win. I hope it is. But I don't think it will be. I think it's going to be back and forth. I think it's going to be a tight game. And look, without Miles Sanders, that's a big offensive weapon gone. Without Derek Barnett, that's another pass rusher gone. And we know that the Washington has a really good pass rush. And I'm a little concerned about the Eagles' offensive line, at least going into the season. A little concerned. I'm glad Peters is back at left tackle. Lane, I hope, plays tomorrow at right because they have a really good record when he's starting at right tackle. But it does concern me a bit, the Washington pass rush. Chase Young is going to be a beast. Really, really good pick for them. We're going to have to deal with him for many years. And there's going to be great battles, with him and the tackles, right? With Lane or I forget if he can play either side, but either Lane or Peters is going to be a battle with him. Haskins, like I said, I don't think, give him some credit. I do think that he's going to be a good quarterback in this league. I just think it's going to take him a little more time to really develop. But I think they have a good one there. And I do think that, like I said, I think it's going to be a close game, a back and forth kind of tight game. It's week one. You just never know what to expect, particularly this year because of the off season and lack thereof of the practices. There was no preseason. Preseason, the starters don't even play, so whatever. But for the young guys, we haven't seen them. We haven't seen them in-game, situations. So we're going to see. I like the fact that we have some explosiveness at the wide receiver position, at least on paper. Guys have to stay healthy. Guys have to produce. I like that. I like the addition of Darius Slay. I think he's going to be covering McLaurin, and I think that's going to be a help because last year he kind of ran wild on the Eagles. So we'll see. I think I do believe the Eagles are going to win this game. I think it's going to be close. I think at the end the Eagles will pull away. Maybe it's like a one-score game late in the fourth quarter. The Eagles maybe they get a turnover or a late touchdown or field goal to put them up by 2 scores to be able to kind of, okay, now we got this one. Kind of like last season. That's the type of game I expect. And you just never know. New coach, new system in Washington. We'll see. We'll see. Eagles have been kind of the establishment, and they have had success against Washington, but all the games have been close for the most part. And I do believe tomorrow's going to be a close one, but I do think the Eagles win. I think the Eagles win this game by at least 10. But it's going to be a nail biter. I think, maybe they get a late score late, to really put the game out of reach. But I do believe the Eagles get out of there with a win. And then they have their first home game in an empty stadium. But next week against the LA Rams. Hey, there's a lot of great storylines into this season, obviously. A lot of players going from team to team, different teams looking different. Some teams moving to different stadiums, and one team in the Raiders even moving to a whole other state. Now, welcome to Las Vegas, right? So it's going to be a fun year. It's an interesting season. I think the NFC has a lot of good teams in it. It's going to be a lot of challenges, obviously, for the Eagles. And like I said, I'm feeling pretty good about the season. Even with the injuries, I know what this team's capable of because they've done nothing but show me what they're capable of in recent years. And again, they have that cohesiveness with the quarterback and the coach. And I think that makes a difference in winning a division title again this season. And possibly having some, success in the playoffs. But we'll get to the playoffs when we get there. That's still months away. Look, we haven't the leaves haven't even started to turn yet, okay? So we have to get really, truly into the fall and into the winter before we can really think about playoffs. So, but that's what I think. 10-6 for the Birds. Eagles win tomorrow at Washington. By at least 10. They get a win to start the season. Look, they're good at beating Washington to start a season. So I think that trend continues. And now let's get to it was a success a season ago. We're going to do it again this season because Festive is still happy that went above 500 with the picks last season, okay? Making the picks. All right, Festive knew how to do it. And we got, as we had last season, we're going to end each week leading into the game with the Festive 4. The 4-pack of picks from Festive. Okay, so Festive, who's looking forward to the season. Festive's still a little upset the Flyers couldn't win Game 7 against the Islanders, but that's all right, Festive. Hopefully next season they can play in their stadium, maybe things will be a little different. But they still had some success. It was a step up from a season ago, and, we'll see. Hey, we finally have a goalie. That's nice. But anyhow, we're gonna get back into football with the Festive 4. So these are the 4-pack of winners that Festive likes for tomorrow, or for week 1, I should say. Obviously, the Kansas City Texans game already was played. Festive did like the Chiefs, by the way, in that game, but that game was already played. So we're going to go to the 4-pack of winners for this week. Festive likes Buffalo over the Jets in the battle of the AFC East. Boy, what an interesting division that's going to be this year. Tawny is now on Tampa, so we're going to see what the Patriots are about this season. Cam Newton there now. Festive also likes Carolina over in their inaugural game as the Las Vegas Raiders. Sorry, Pistol. Festive likes Carolina, the Kitty Cats, to beat the Rays. Festive also likes Indianapolis over Jacksonville. Boy, Jacksonville might have some losses this season, huh? Ooh, if you're a Jacksonville fan, that's tough getting a jersey. Those players just leave left and right. But anyhow, Festive likes the Colts over the Jaguars. And Festive also likes the defending NFC champs to get off to a 1-0 start. The San Francisco 49ers over the Arizona Cardinals. And that's the Festive 4 again, the 4-pack of winners for this week. Although Festive said, now Festive Festive does take a look at the NFL, and Festive sees a lot of things. So Festive says one of those dark horses for the NFC to make the playoffs this year, those Arizona Cardinals. Festive likes that Murray because he's small and makes big plays. But with just like Festive. But with that being said, Festive does like the Niners to beat Arizona, at least for week 1. Arizona gets off to an 0-1 start. But Festive says, keep an eye on those Redbirds this season. It might be a playoff dark horse. We'll see. They have DeAndre Hopkins there, too. So we'll see. I wish the Eagles could have made the move there. But there's a lot of things I wish that Howie could have done in recent years. Anyhow, everyone in Eagles Nation, it's great to have football back, although it's a little different this season. I get that. But, hey, great to have the Birds back. And let's get off to a great start this season. 1-0. I predict a win against the Washington football team tomorrow in Washington. Get off on a good note. And, hey, we'll see how explosive these young receivers are for this team. And D-Jax, we know what D-Jax can do against the Washington football team. Because we saw it a season ago, right, when we did actually see him on the field. The rest of the season we didn't. But we... 2 touchdowns, a very memorable day. And we know this about D-Jax. He's always good for at least 1 touchdown against his former team. In Eagles Nation, we certainly know that, right? All those years when he was with Washington and then later with Tampa. But so you do expect D-Jax to have a nice game against his former team again tomorrow. But anyhow, let's go Birds as always. Let's get off to a 1-0 start. Happy football season yet again. It is back, different this year, but it's back, and it's great to have the Birds back. And let's get off to a 1-0 start tomorrow against the Washington football team in Landover. All right, everyone, take care, go Birds. I'll see you at some point after the game. We'll break it down.